Granola Crunch, which I loved, and then
Oh,
Spotify Wrapped, which was The only thing I did like was the creator side because I got some really cool stats about how this
oh,
podcast is doing
really?
and how our fans actually really like it. But it was just, it was fine, you know? But one thing I did start noticing was that a lot of people started posting online that they're not trusting the data. They're like, why did this song show up in my top 5 when I know I haven't actually listened to it that long? So there really seems to be a core issue here where people are starting to lose trust in Spotify Wrapped, which is like kind of their biggest marketing campaign of the year, because they put, well, I think that's also questionable, right? I was gonna say they put so much work into it. I'm like, do they? You know, last year they got all this like,
That is true.
pushback because it was the first time that they started using AI, and
Uh,
people are like, yeah, it shows, you know?
Yes.
But then what Spotify says is that there's so many users that it would be almost impossible to be able to create the personalization that you would need to that they did before. Then people are like, well, but you did create it before up until last year.
Yeah.
So kind of where is that, right? So kind of to throw some stats here, Spotify Wrapped 2025 hit 200 million users in 24 hours. So that's 19% year over year growth from last year, and generated 500 million shares. So that's 41% year over year growth. So that's a huge like boost from last year, right? This is massive engagement after last year's AI flop. But underneath this viral success, people are calling out the accuracy, right? Where, they're showing that songs played daily, showing 20 listens. And just saying that it's, pretty fraudulent. Is it a data play? Is it the way that they're showing it? Is it that they're, prioritizing bigger artists over the smaller artists that people listen to on a daily basis? Whereas I wanted to bring in the example of Granola Crunch, which launched the exact same day with the opposite strategy, right? It was privacy first. They weren't really pushing people to share it. Honestly, I ended up sharing it because like the
Yeah.
personalized AI insights from meeting notes, mind you, were so interesting to me and funny that like I was like, oh my God, of course I have to share this. And it gave me such deep insights into the things that I talk about to my clients like on a daily basis that I was like, oh my God, I actually didn't even think about myself in this way. But it did end up calling me the executive director of Narrative Alchemy. So I think that like they came up with enough interesting things like this, fake, granola promotion,
Yes.
that like it would make it interesting for you to share. Right. And they were kind of making you aware of like things that I felt like were things that I wasn't really like noticing about myself and like the things that I talk about. Pretty regularly. So the fact that it was kind of pulling that information out from all the conversations that I've had, is what really works for me, right? And then the biggest thing is the fact that, people wanted to share it, right? Like these are
Mm.
pretty private, notes, like it's just your granola meeting notes, like who you're talking on a daily basis. The fact that they couched the really private like meetings and like shifted it over to a little bit more like generalized content about like what it is. So like mine was like very big on storytelling and marketing, talking about mission and vision, So it's all
Yeah.
these like key words in like marketing that like, most marketing people understand and know. And that knowing that that's your target audience because that's who you're going to share it with, right? It's like other marketers. Without sharing any of like the actual details, was what really made it work for me. Did you get your granola crunch this year or do you use granola?
I don't use granola.
Oh, you don't? Well, now you
Yeah.
have to.
Man, I really have to now because yeah, it looks so good. Before you shared the granola wrap, I saw someone on LinkedIn posted on it too, and I just commented on it like, "What makes it so good?" And he just
Mhm,
shared with me the whole thing. I think the best thing is that this is kind of general, but they kind of already know their users. I feel like
mhm,
they know what stats actually matter and how they package it in something that make you laugh or make you feel,
mhm,
oh, that's really funny or that's hilarious. And I don't think a lot of startups do the whole rap thing, but the problem was that they just like, here's your data instead of
yeah,
packaging it into something that people wants to share. They come up
mhm,
with the ultimate goal. Maybe like, I don't want to say, okay, you've updated 50,000 notes this year. I don't care about that. Like, but
yeah,
I think a lot of startups in this past couple of years kind of fall into that trap. They're thinking, okay, I have this data. Okay, let's just present this data so they know what they've done this year. But no, you have
Mhm.
to add more than that. And it's kind of similar to I want to go back a bit to the Spotify thing. Like you said,
Mhm,
they
mhm,
had like an increase in engagement
mhm.
compared to last year. I genuinely couldn't remember what is special about Spotify Rap last year.
Yeah.
But
I think that
this
was part of the
year,
problem.
I think it is part of the problem. But this year, the listening age is really interesting.
Yeah. So I do wanna give them a shout out for that because they're like,
Yeah,
"Okay, clearly we need to do something new." So the fact that they, came up with this new thing. So the listening age is kind of, I guess, combines, the data of, like, all the music that you're listening to and, like, the years, and then based on, who in those demographics usually listens to that music, gave you this listening age, right?
right.
Which on the one hand, yes, was, like, interesting because it was new, they'd never done it before. But on the
Yes.
flip side, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us listen to like older, like boomer music, say, right? Because it's like the
Yeah.
classics. And then they just gave you the age of being like 67. And you're like, okay, but no, I'm a cultured, a millennial who listens to all types of music, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just like the one that's around the age range of like, the music that was popular when you were a teenager or whatever,
What's your What's your Spotify age?
Mine was 34. So,
Are you serious? Mine
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
71.
What?
Yes. That's insane. I do listen to a lot of, like, old blues stuff, like the
Yeah.
Beatles, for example.
Hmm.
The oldest that I've seen, former I used to play in a band, and a
Hmm.
former, bandmate of mine, his listening age is 100.
Oh
Like,
my god.
that's the oldest I've ever seen. That is not a meme, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
100, because
What does he listen to?
he listens to, like, 1920s blues, like, Robert
Okay.
Johnson
Sure,
and
sure, sure.
stuff. I was like, "Dude, you're fucking old." Oh, sorry, can I swear here?
Yeah, 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 you're fine.
Okay, my bad.
This is an adult podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids
But
don't
yes,
work, right?
kids don't think about
Yeah.
Spotify Rap.
About
Maybe they
marketing.
do actually, yeah. But that's also interesting. I think the key to all the rap stuff is I
Mhm,
think you have to think about the end goal first, the story,
mhm,
instead of thinking about, okay, these are the data we have and then
mhm.
how do we package it. Maybe you should think the other way around. Okay, what's the shareable stuff that people would love, and then try to fit the database on it. Of course, there's a risk that you really want this goal to happen and you start using fake data. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and that brings us back to the problem, right? Where, like, people are
Exactly.
like, "This doesn't make sense." But I think that's part of the problem with the listening age, right? It's like, I listen to
Yes.
jazz, I listen to hip hop, I listen to pop, and, across all of those, like, you just have different, like, tastes, like, and that's where it was kind of missing for me, like, I think what they could have done is like, "Oh, you have such an eclectic taste," right? But, like, why does that pair back to the age necessarily, you know?
Mhm.
Though they do have that category already, right? Where it's like they have the top 5 honors that you listen to, right?
Yeah.
Where, I remember people complaining about that. Was it last year or the year before? Because they had kind of come up with these, like, weird categories, right?
I
Like
think this year
honky.
too, I think.
Right, right,
If
right.
not,
But were people complaining about it? Because that was, like, the year that they did it was
I
when
see.
people were like, "Okay, you're coming up with, like, random names for these genres just to try to, like, drill down specifically into, like, what people actually listen to." But
The
yeah,
funny thing is, in non-English speaking countries, I think it's the other way around. They generalize it. I listen to Japanese music sometimes, and
sure.
if it shows up, and this is definitely not J-pop, like traditional Japanese music. So I think I
Yeah,
saw that people complaining about it. Like, I'm not 100% sure, like,
sure.
how deep is it?
Mhm,
But
mhm, mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
Spotify needs to get their shit together. Honestly.
yeah, it's funny because, last year was the first time, that I saw mostly on my timeline complaints, right? Whereas, and
Hmm.
I think it was mostly because it was the AI. This
Yeah.
time around, it was mostly complaints as well. I didn't really get any like, "Oh, hey, look at my, Spotify, lists or like what I listen to, most people were just complaining like, oh, this doesn't seem right, or the listening age, doesn't make sense. The genre. So the fact that like now most of the spin has become negative, is something that they're gonna have to sort out because if
Yeah.
they're spending all this time, and effort to
Or do
create this like
they?
marketing campaign, yeah, fair enough, right? Then like, is it gonna be worth it for them, right? Because honestly, I mean, it's not something I'm looking forward to. I feel like a lot of people used to look forward to it a lot,
Yeah.
but I will be looking forward to my granola crunch next year. So,
Perfect.
because I only joined like in August, so the fact that from August to probably not even December, right? From August to November, they were able to capture all that, and I loved all the content. What are they going to be doing with like a full year worth of like notes?
That is true.
Um,
Alright, you sold me on granola. Granola,
yeah, no, you should do.
if you're watching this, you can give me a free
There
subscription.
you go.
I'll post about it. Let's go.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple lessons here for me is that virality isn't always the goal. I don't think that like Granola went into this being like, oh, let's go viral, let's create this like
Yeah.
thing. They took the idea of like Spotify Wraps, like let's do an end of year, review for people that based on their notes, but then they made it more about themselves and their users. Really focusing on the privacy, really focusing on like the things that people are saying, the content, and like what's actually in it, and then made the granola crunch based on those insights is what really worked. And then that's what made it go viral because people felt like, oh my God, you actually put time and effort behind this. It wasn't just that you're kind of trying to do broad generalizations or broad categories of like the data and then trying to fit people into that, but you were making it more about the user and what you're telling me about me. And everybody loves to hear about themselves, right? So that's really what worked for
100%.
me,
Yeah.
right? This is why horoscopes are popular. The Hogwarts houses was so popular, right? Because it's like it helps you
Yes.
kind of figure out what you relate to and like where you fit in into like society.
These are so millennial coded, by the way, like
But
Hogwarts houses. Uh, we're
but they work,
millennials, yes,
right?
but they work. 100% work. Yeah.
So good on them for doing that. And then I'll throw in that accuracy over engagement is going to be far more useful for long-term trust than just trying to get people to engage with your content, which is what I think Spotify was trying to do with Spotify Wrapped. It's just like let's just give them a couple things that they can kind of throw out, and then that people want to share, and that'll be that. Instead of trying to focus on the accuracy of like where people's actual music tastes,
Hmm.
fall in. Another thing here, though, to call out, though, is maybe people are moving more to like the center. But I think that's an overall Spotify issue because they're the ones
Yes.
pushing, generic music at you instead of trying to like filter you into hearing more in depth into the buckets that you're actually interested
Yeah.
to and not trying to shift you into listening to Taylor Swift because her album just came out, which is what I
Mhm.
hear a lot of people complaining about, where they're like, why am I being shifted over to Taylor Swift when I have never shown an interest in her music or the pop or, anything of the like? So something to think about for next year.
That's a really good point, yeah.